Thank you very much for hearing me today. My name is Dave Benjamin. I'm the co-founder and executive director of the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project. We're a water safety nonprofit that specializes in water safety education. I'd like to open up just by saying that a water safety school curriculum would be the fastest approach to reach the largest audience in the shortest amount of time that would have the maximum impact, as well as the most cost-effective avenue to take. If we look at research and statistics, back in 2012, the World Health Organization said that drowning continues to be a neglected public health issue, which happens with an alarmingly high rate around the world. So drowning is a public health issue, and it continues to be a neglected public health issue. It does not get funding for education, outreach, and research as other public health issues. I'm here today because I survived a drowning incident in Lake Michigan when I was winter surfing back in 2010. At that time of the incident, I was 40 years old. I had 40 years of swimming in Lake Michigan. I grew up with swim lessons, a very strong, competent swimmer. I was a very experienced surfer. I just unfortunately had a bad wipeout near the rock wall. The leash on my surfboard didn't hold, and I unfortunately, in the wipeout, inhaled a tiny bit of water, which closes your throat. Water pushing me to the bottom. I instantly panicked. It's not common sense to know that panic is the first stage of drowning, and if you don't have experience with dealing with panic, you make a lot of mistakes. I exhausted all my energy trying to get back to the surface, trying to get a breath of air, and the water kept pushing me down, and this is the short version of this, but when I accepted my fate that this is how I'm going out, I gave up. I'm wearing a winter wetsuit. It brought me back up to the surface and I was able to breathe. The more I was struggling in the water, the more I was drowning myself. Doing nothing, relaxing, floating is what saved me that day. After that incident, co-founded the Great Lakes Surf Rescue Project with Bob Pratt here. We track drownings, we teach water safety, we work with family and friends of drowning victims. We train lifeguards and first responders for open water rescue, and then we do a lot of work with the media and special projects like legislation. Now, I mentioned that we do presentations and trainings. We've done over 1,300 presentations in 7 of the 8 Great Lakes states since 2011. For every presentation, we start off with a swim experience survey, similar to what Senator Charbonneau did. I'm gonna, got limited time here, but for every presentation, kindergarten through high school, through public presentations, corporate presentations, we always ask, how many know how to swim? And over 95% of the audience will put their hand up and say they know how to swim. We'll ask, have you been in the ocean, a Great Lake, inland lake, a pool, to encompass everybody in this survey. And then we give them a safety pop quiz, which I would love to give you today, but we got short time. But the safety pop quiz is this. What do you do if your clothes catch on fire? Everyone knows stop, drop, and roll. What number do you call if there's an emergency? Everyone knows 911. And then I say, what do you do if you're drowning? And it's silent. Nobody seems to know, right? We need to understand it's important to know how to swim, but knowing how to swim is not water safety. We need to have classroom education for the hazards. And what we have been advocating since 2011 is flip, float, and follow. It's like the stop, drop, and roll of water safety. Flip over on your back and you float, keep your head above water, calm yourself down from the panic, conserve your energy, and then follow a safe path out of the water. Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom have adopted similar strategies for their country campaigns. Float first is the way to go. So we need to understand water safety is not common sense. And if we put the juxtaposition on the pop quiz, I mean, how many play in fire? Nobody. Nobody plays in fire, but everyone knows a fire survival strategy. The flip side is everyone plays in water and very few people know a survival strategy like float. So that's why we need to have this education in schools. Water safety is not common sense. It's not common sense to know the drowning statistics, so we know who's drowning, when, where, and why. It's not common sense to know what drowning looks like, or the timeline of drowning, or water hazards, or basic rescue and CPR for drowning victims. So we need to have this education taught to the masses. And I'll conclude here with a survey that was done by the American Red Cross a few years ago, nationwide survey and testing. 80% of Americans say they know how to swim, but when they were physically tested, They didn't have the swimming ability to save their own lives in a pool, right? 5 basic skills. Fall in water over your head and resurface. Tread water for 1 minute. Spin around 360 degrees to spot an exit. Swim 25 yards the length of a pool to get to an exit. And then climb out of the water without any assistance, without using a ladder. These are 5 very minimal basic water skills. 80% of Americans said that they knew how to swim. 54% of them couldn't do this in a pool. So we need to understand this goes beyond swimming lessons. We do want everyone to know how to swim, but we need to have classroom education to enforce and bring everybody to the next level. So thank you guys very much. In closing, again, a water safety school curriculum is the fastest approach to reach the largest audience in the shortest amount of time that would have the maximum impact. Thank you.
Okay, any questions? Yep. Representative Shackelford.
Thank you, Chairman. I love the presentation, and I think it's very important that everyone learns these skills. What do you recommend for the people that say they can't float and they don't know how to float, i.e. my boyfriend?
We believe that everyone could learn to float. Sometimes how we explain it to some people, take the word float out of your mind and consider it balancing. So you're going to lay back, get your head up high, your chest is at the surface, and a deep breath, right? So with drowning, when you're panicking, you're exhaling more than you're inhaling, you're deflating your lungs, you're becoming less buoyant. If you can roll over, you put your arms out. It's not like you're being perfectly still. You have your hands at your side doing a little bit of a little flutter with your feet. Chest at the surface, deep breaths. Now your ears are underwater, so that can be a little intimidating as well because it kind of blocks out your hearing and it's a little, you're more immersed, but we do believe that everybody can learn to float. And it's best that you know, can you float? And if you can't, you should always have a flotation device with you attached because flotation will be the difference between life and death in a drowning incident.
All right, thank you.
Representative Summers.
Thank you for your presentation. What would you say to a person that had trauma like me that needs to figure out how to learn how to swim?
There are adult learn to swim programs that may have some experience with overcoming that fear. I know my mom had the same thing when she was a child. Her brother threw her into Lake Michigan off of the lakefront trail, and she sank, and they ended up, bringing her back up. So she had like a claustrophobia thing as my whole life, but she could float. She learned how to float. Okay. Yeah, so I'm not a psychologist, but I would look at the learn to swim programs to, when you have confidence in the water with your ability in the water can help alleviate that trauma.
Yep. Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great presentation. A couple things. How can we help get the message out, like 911, like stop, drop, and roll? Even we know the old message, children, do you know where your parents are, and that kind of things. How do we do that first? And the second one, to Representative Shackelford's point, I think a lot of people fear is that they think if they try to float that they're gonna sink. I think it's a mindset. So those two things, are you able to add context to those two things for us today?
Yes. Again, I would say by having this in the public education, in the school system, it's standard today, fire drills, tornado drills. It's standard school shooter drills. We didn't grow up with school shooter drills, right? Kids know today that if there's an active shooter, run, hide, or fight. We even have earthquake drills in many states, including Illinois and Indiana, and it might not be statewide in Indiana, but my kids, Homewood-Flossmoor School District in Illinois, had earthquake drills. Drop down, take cover, hold on. There hasn't been a fatal earthquake in my lifetime, but it's got a higher precedent over water safety at the moment. What was the second part of your question? Oh.
I think floating issues, people don't think they...
Okay, all right.
The fear.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's nobody underneath me to catch me, and most people can, because we're 90%, we're water ourselves. We're made up of water, so they can float. Like, how can you how can we get the fear that if I do float, like she made up when she said her boyfriend, how can we, the mindset of if we get the fear out that we can float?
Okay. Again, I would go to like adult learn to swim programs or other swim programs, learning in a controlled environment where you're in water, where you can always stand up so you can practice that. Bob may have better answers because he's also a lifeguard instructor. This is what we need to understand is that if you want to survive a drowning incident, you have to stay at the surface and you have to continue breathing. So the only way you can do that is your ability to stay at the surface by floating, treading water, or have a flotation device. The longer you're at the surface of the water, the more time you're buying for rescue to arrive or for self-rescue to happen. So it's staying at the surface. Because when someone's in a drowning incident, it's in that moment, they're in over their head, they instantly panic, and all their experience is out the window. Even though I was 40 years old and a strong, competent swimmer and surfer, all my experience was out the window, so I was in the moment of panic. You have to get through that initial onset of panic. We need to understand it's a marathon to get out of the water, not a sprint. So again, staying at the surface, continue breathing. And then also, if you know your own ability to float and your comfort level, that if you're going near water, you should always have a flotation device attached to you, especially if you're on boats. And unfortunately, every year we'll see an incident where someone didn't know how to swim. They were on a boat, but they didn't have a life jacket on. And there's various kinds of life jackets, like a fanny pack style, that you can pull a ripcord and it'll inflate. There's some that will self-inflate when it hits the water. So, it's part of the education process of educating people on flotation devices and the types of flotation devices and the proper types of flotation devices for your activities, whether you're stand-up paddleboarding or canoeing, surfing, et cetera.
You heard Senator Spencer at the beginning. He is a movie producer. I mean, he's
Yes.
produced lots of movies. And you do it for free, which is good. Does showing that movie have to be done in school?
I would recommend, so right now we have a fire safety week where there's educational materials that are, lesson plans given to teachers to talk about it. It doesn't take up the whole day, but it's a part of the week. And then it has a visit from the fire department. We could do a similar program like that to have a water safety week in the springtime, where the water safety education, there's going to be a daily lesson plan. It could be age appropriate for elementary, junior high, high school. Having this videos greatly supplements that.
Okay, it would be a supplement. I mean, I guess there's still nothing as good as getting into a pool and swimming, and many schools don't have pools.
So this is what I would recommend. I had swim lessons when I was 10 years old. I'm 55 years old now. That's quite a long time ago, right? So there are programs which are excellent. It might be a 6-week, 8-week program where the children are in the pool. They may be bused to a pool for swim lessons. But essentially, it's teaching them the physical techniques. It's kind of like saying, who knows how to run? Everyone knows how to run. How many can run a marathon? Because I sure can't, right? So you need to have, as part of the training process of it. So oftentimes with swim lessons, when it's a 6-week, 8-week program, it may be teaching them to float and the very basics of the front crawl, backstroke, and at best, maybe swimming the length of the pool as part of passing out the program, 25 yards, right? That's a small window. And then after that, are they going to continue? So with my kids, I put them in swim lessons at a place that had a swim team. So they graduated from swim lessons to swim team, and then they each spent 2 years on swim team. And even with the swim team, they didn't teach them any water safety. They didn't teach them how to float in the swim team. They would swim thousands of yards a day, 6 days a week. And they even had a student years earlier that they took a trip to Hawaii where one of the team members perished in a drowning incident. Okay. And everybody was in disbelief. Swim team, how can a swim team person drown? Anyone can drown.
Okay, I'm going to ask a question. It'll be the last question. Do you have statistics on the age range of where most drowning are? Yeah,
so if we're looking at the information for the Center for Disease Control, Drowning is the leading form or leading cause of all forms of death for children age 1 to 4. Okay? Drowning is the leading cause of all forms of death for children 1 to 4. There's a shock statement in the water safety industry. Drowning is the #1 reason why your child won't make it to kindergarten. We don't teach drowning and water safety in birthing classes, Lamaze classes. I have 3 kids. They're all 8 years apart. I call them the 8-year locust, right? One's 15, one's going on 24, the other's 32. I went to birthing class for all 3 of them because my memory's not so good and I need to learn things over again. But for each time I took them to I went to birthing class with my wife, they didn't talk anything about water safety. They didn't talk about bathtub safety. But you know what they made sure we knew? Car seat safety, right? When the child was born, we're escorted out of the hospital to the vehicle to make sure that the child is properly strapped into the car seat. The car seat's properly strapped into the vehicle and facing the correct way, which is excellent. But more kids will die drowning under the age of 5 than car accidents, car crashes. Now, for children 5 to 14, drowning is the 2nd leading cause of accidental death, 2nd only to car accidents. The nation as a whole, drowning is the 5th leading cause of accidental death. And then when we narrow down these statistics to who, what, where, and when, for children under the age of 1, bathtubs is the leading body of water where drowning will happen. For children 1 to 4, backyard access to water is a leading body of water where drowning will happen. Is there a pool in the backyard or a retention pond? Does a neighbor have water in their backyard? Even a 5-gallon bucket with rainwater is a hazard. For 5 to 14, it starts moving to, like, say, public pools and open bodies of water. And then in 2018, Safe Kids Worldwide did a report. 43% of all drownings nationwide were happening in open bodies of water, more than pools. You know, it's the first time ever that open water became the leading body of water where all drownings were happening nationwide. This was updated in 2024 by the Center for Disease Control. It's up to 52% of all drownings nationwide happen in open water.
Okay.
When we look at those in open water, one last point, 50% of all drownings for 15 to 19-year-olds happen in open water, and likely a key reason why is they get their driver's license. All their friends get their driver's license. They can go farther and faster from adult supervision without any water safety education. Driver's ed would be a great place to drop a water safety video. Because I know when I was 16, I was the oldest of my friends. We had an old station wagon. I could fit 11 of my friends into the back of the station wagon, and we go to the beach, and, you know, we were pretty risky and got probably just some luck on our side back then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your